Hello, my name's Julian Edgar and I'm the author of this book, Designing and Building a New Energy Efficient Home. What I want to cover in today's video is why so much advice on new energy efficient homes in Australia is simply wrong. Yep, wrong. Let's take a look. So you want to build a new energy efficient, comfortable and healthy house in southern Australia. What a wonderful ambition. You want to live in a home that gives you good air quality. You want to live in a home that naturally cools itself in summer, warms itself in winter. And you obviously then want an energy efficient home, one that doesn't need a lot of energy for heating or cooling. All of those things are absolutely achievable, but the trouble is the advice that you read and are given to achieve those things is often quite wrong. Wrong? Yes, let's take a look. So here's what you get told to do. You'll read this on the web, you'll have energy advisors telling you this. Each of these things are what is often suggested. Firstly, seal up the house. Make the house as airtight as possible. Special membranes, special jointing tape, special windows, special external doors. Make the house as airtight as is physically possible. Okay, that's the first thing that you'll read. The second thing that you'll read or be given the advice of is to fit a mechanical ventilator, a system that brings in fresh air from outside and removes air from the house. Now, if you're already thinking about what I'm saying, you'll say to yourself, well, of course you'll need a ventilator because you've just sealed up the house. Get to that in a moment. The next thing you'll read is you need very special windows, triple glazed, often the windows imported from Europe. They'll be very expensive, but that's what you need because you're going to build an energy efficient home, aren't you? And logically, with all these special things that you need, of course your house will need to be built with special trades. Those tradespeople will need to be specially trained in how to build an energy efficient home. The trouble is, not one of those things is actually needed. Why? Let's look at each in turn. Well, before we even look at them in turn, why are they wrong? Well, there's two major reasons. A lot of those ideas have been imported from completely different climates. I've travelled in Europe, I've travelled in Northern Europe, I've travelled in Germany. In winter, those climates are dramatically different to anything you'll find in southern Australia. Southern Western Australia, South Australia, New South Wales, Victoria, Tasmania, even southern Queensland. Completely different levels of cold in winter, completely different levels of sunshine in winter, and typically much lower maximum temperatures. The climate is different. So if you import a whole bunch of ingredients from a completely different climate, it doesn't take a lot of thought to realise that they're likely to be wrong as well. The other reason that they are wrong is because they all take just one approach to energy efficient homes. It's like it's locked in. This is the only approach you can take, and so therefore logically all these things are needed. But that's because the precept is wrong. You're already approaching it in only one way, a way that I think is expensive and difficult. Now let's look at each of those points in turn. Firstly, seal up the house. This is simply not needed in southern Australian climates. We do not have the magnitude of cold that you experience in Europe and in North America. You don't have problems like freezing water pipes inside your house bursting if we can't keep the temperature everywhere in the house up really high. We don't have the problem that minor air leaks are going to massively detract from the energy efficiency of the home because there's so much heat and cold going in and out. My home, which I cover in the book in detail, is not tightly sealed, and yet it performs admirably in a Canberra climate, and Canberra is actually a pretty tough climate to work in Australia. Sealing up the house is expensive. It's expensive for labour because the labour is much greater to seal every tiny opening in a house when it's being built. And it's more expensive for materials because special materials are used to do that sealing. The problem also is if you've just sealed up the house, logically there's not going to be any air coming in or out. And you need air to breathe. It's not rocket science. You need air, you need good quality air to be able to breathe in your house. And if you've just sealed up your house like a thermos flask, you're not going to be able to breathe any fresh air. So therefore, sealing the house requires the use of an expensive mechanical ventilator. Now you can see how if you start with the logically incorrect premise, it follows and follows and follows, but you're actually going in completely the wrong direction. Sealing up the house is not needed in southern Australia climates. Perhaps the tiny areas of alpine climate accepted, but that's I think it's less than 1.5%, something like that. Fit a mechanical ventilator. Well, only if you've chosen to seal up the house. It's a circular argument. You need to have a mechanical ventilator to bring in fresh air because otherwise fresh air can't get into your house. Now, fitting a mechanical ventilator costs money. It costs money in labour, it costs money in the equipment, it costs money in maintenance. You don't expect such a system to last for the life of the house. It might last 10 years, it might last 20 years. You want a house to last 50 or 100 years. It requires maintenance of changing of filters. It provides a constant low level of noise. Now, it might be inaudible, or if it's boosted, for example, if you are having a shower, you will be able to hear it. That's been my experience in the houses I've visited that have these systems. So a mechanical ventilator is a consequence of sealing up your house, and sealing up your house is not actually necessary. You need special triple glazed windows. Well, not in Australia you don't. You do need decent quality windows in an energy efficient home. You do need double glazed, and preferably if they're aluminium framed, thermally broken double glazed, which means there's a little insulating layer within the frame so the heat can't go straight through it. But thermally broken double glazed windows are now available from any old window supplier. Okay, normal window suppliers have these in stock. The price increase is now very, very modest over single glaze because they're being produced in such large numbers. The windows for my house came from my local supplier, and there were multiple local suppliers who could make those available. So this idea you need special exotic windows and external doors imported from overseas is absolutely and simply not the case. Your house needs to be built with special trades. Well, can you see where this is going? Only if you have chosen to seal up your house, only if you have chosen to install a mechanical ventilator, and only if you have chosen to have very special windows. Once you remove those from the equation, any decent Australian tradesperson can build an energy efficient home. So it only follows that you need specially trained trades if you are following the Kool-Aid that you need all these other things as well. It's another circular argument. Now, I would say always when an energy efficient home is being built, it needs to be rigorously inspected at every stage. And if you are an owner builder, for example, you can employ someone to do that. If the house is being built on your behalf by a commercial or residential builder, you can get it inspected by an independent person that you pay. And that's simply to make sure that all those I's are being dotted and T's are being crossed. But you do not need special trades to build an energy efficient home. That is simply not true. So what actually do you need? What you need is good fundamental passive solar design, where you use the sun to help heat the home in winter, and you use ventilation and what is called thermal mass to cool the home in summer. You don't need the mechanical ventilator, you don't need the sealed house, you don't need the special trades, you don't need the triple glazed windows. What you actually need are fundamentals of good design, like orientation. Which way, which compass direction do most windows in the house face, or the face of the house with the most windows? Which direction is that heading in? And really in southern Australia, and in fact in the whole of the southern hemisphere, they should look towards the north. You need shading. You need shading that shades those windows in summer, but lets the sun come through in winter. And that can be achieved extremely simply just with eave design, the overhang. You need ventilation. You need ventilation so that you have air you can breathe. You need ventilation to cool the house, especially in night at summer, to get the cool air through the house and cool the interior of the house so that it stays cool the next day. These ideas are not rocket science, are they? These ideas are very, very simple. And in fact, all of these ideas have been used in architecture in various forms for thousands of years. You need thermal mass. You need the ability to store cool and store heat inside the house, inside the insulated envelope. And you need a house layout that makes sense, preferably living areas on the northern aspect, because they're the ones that stay more even in temperature. You need to be able to zone the house, shut off areas that you don't want to heat or cool. You don't want to cool the food in your cupboards, do you? You don't want to cool the knives and forks in the cutlery drawer. You want to be able to heat and cool where it is actually best required for people. None of those points needs cost a cent more than you are already spending on the house. Orientation is a zero cost idea. Shading, a zero cost idea. Ventilation is simply organising windows and doors so they can be opened appropriately, making sure the house isn't fully sealed so air does come in that allows you to breathe without high CO2, carbon dioxide levels. Thermal mass is easily integrated into the house at no cost. The concrete slab on which the house is built can be your thermal mass. And house layout costs nothing. It doesn't matter if you put a room there or decide the room should be over there. These don't need to cost anything because they are about good fundamental design rather than a crappy design that has a whole lot of technological band-aids applied. Ooh, the house is going to get hot. We better put on triple glazed windows. Oh, the house is going to get cold. We better add yet another whole thick layer of insulation. Oh, that means we'll have to change the way we construct the walls. Not a problem. The client's paying for it. Good fundamental design doesn't need a whole lot of technological band-aids put on top in order to get an energy efficient and comfortable and healthy home. The book is Designing and Building a New Energy Efficient Home. Where can you buy it? Well, you can't yet. It'll be out mid-2026, and I'm waiting until then, until I have a full year of logged data on my house. Temperature, relative humidity, dew point, carbon dioxide levels, everything logged so it can be seen how well that house performs. At the time of doing this video, we've experienced spring and summer, and a very, very hot summer indeed, and the performance of the house was absolutely outstanding. The book will be out mid-2026. It covers everything I'm talking about in this and my other videos. Thank you.